Hi, my name's Ian Wallace. I call myself the Messed Up Counsellor, which is quite an intriguing name. And the podcast you're about to see is one of many, and we've been doing about a year now. So you can look back and see all the things we've talked about with guests and on my own over the process. A lot of the information I use in the podcast initially came from the first book I wrote in 2011. Why do we do that? What do we do about it? And that came out and was the basis of all my learning, understanding at that time, which is going back a few years now. And that process of understanding how the world works for people, how we can alter, change and adapt it, was kind of what it was there to do with the initial stages. I've made that now an audiobook as well, so it's available on Amazon as an audio file that you can check out and you can download to your heart's content, and hopefully that will be helpful. In the podcasts, we're trying to look at all sorts of things about human interactions, human dynamics, the world, and how we might understand it more or change it more. So it gives you lots of ideas and tools in order to think about and look at different ways of being or dealing with things. And hopefully that brings people together and makes people more able to connect and communicate. Lots of topics. If you ever want to connect to me, just obviously drop me a comment on the podcast and I shall try as much as possible to reply. And if you've got any ideas of things that we might want to use on the podcasts, then please let me know. My name's Ian Wallace. Thanks for looking and thanks for listening. Hi, welcome to another podcast from Ian Wallace, the Messed Up Counsellor. At this time of year, all of you will be probably thinking, okay, what can I change? What can I do differently? New Year resolutions. I renamed this podcast The Good, the Bad and the Inconsistency. Making those resolutions work for you long term. The problem with a lot of people, including me, is that I want to change something, and New Year is a wonderful time of year to have those ideas, those expectations. But for most people, the initial push, the initial kind of energy that it needs to make those changes, whatever it is, dwindles, kind of reduces, and in the end kind of like gets forgotten. So yeah, a typical one is I want to lose weight, I want to get more healthy, I want to get more fit. Yeah, that's a typical one because we just had Christmas, so everybody's kind of like drunk too much, maybe ate too much, you know. Well, not everybody. Some people are teetotal. And so the resolution that we're trying to make for the new year, the new start, is one that we will do progressively throughout the year. It's not just a one-off at New Year, but it's one where a lot of self-help books get involved, and you start buying all these ideas about what you want to do to change your life and your world, whatever that might be. And a lot of people start off with the expectation of being able to do something and that they might not have done in the past, ever. And their initial energy, fuel for wanting to make the change is very much determined. But that expectation is usually slightly more than the realistic aspect of what you can attain. We want to do more. So we want to lose, we want to lose 6 stone in weight, for example. And we think, okay, that's going to take us, 3 months. Is that realistic? So the idea initially of what you want to do, what you want to change, has to be born out of reality. It's no good just saying, I want to do this, without understanding whether actually it's feasible and whether it's something that can be achieved. So we need to do some preparation work. Now, we naturally have expectations of what we can and cannot do. Sometimes we don't bear that on realism, as I've said, about finding out how much we can lose. And we want to do it in usually a shorter period of time than we really can make happen. And if you think you want to lose 6 stone in weight, then you'll have gained that weight over many months and maybe many years. And now you want to get it off in 3 months. Not realistic, to be fair. So making something happen, any change happen, is something that we need to do in very small bites, very small processes. So we need to be realistic to start with. Is it feasible? Is it possible? And then we need to kind of start breaking that down into smaller and smaller chunks. We call that small steps programs within counselling and CBT kind of counselling. So as we're doing that, we then become more realistic. It's probably going to be achievable if we're realistic. When I first started doing some running many years ago now, I don't do anything nowadays. But I used to do half marathons and marathons and things like that. And so the idea was, when I first started, that you're not going to run a marathon straight off. It's just not going to happen. And if it could, then you really would be fit. So you lead up to it. You prepare yourself. You get to do small things first. So the idea for me was given that you would walk a lamppost, run a lamppost. Walk a lamppost, run a lamppost. So you're breaking it down to small chunks, small bite-sized pieces that can be attained. You might walk a lamppost, run half a lamppost, So you're not necessarily going out and doing a big process, even if you are fit, to be fair. And then you would go to walk a lamppost, run 2 lampposts over a period of time. And then walk a lamppost, run 3 lampposts. So you're building it up over a period of time. And, over a period of maybe 3 months, 4 months, you might be running 6 miles, 7 miles. And that then would help you to attain your target. And then you might think, okay, I can do a half marathon. But you won't do it in the same time that you've run that 6 miles, obviously. So it's about building it up something that's realistic and achievable and moving it forward. Our heads think we can do things, and our bodies kind of disagree with it. My head thinks I'm still 18, and I write checks with my head, then my body certainly cannot deliver. And I find that out pretty quickly nowadays. So I think there's an over-enthusiasm for most human beings of not being realistic, not having an idea of what. We have the motivation, we have that I want to change, I want to lose 6 stone. But then we don't break that into smaller pieces. And it becomes a very easy process to get dissatisfied with, to get upset about, because I haven't lost that amount of weight. So that despondency, that kind of regret, that I didn't do it, that kind of guilt process makes us give up, usually, or we just forget. Some things become much more important. So the time we used to spend doing the losing weight, going to the gym, all those kind of things, become not as important because I have to go and do this, and I have to work, and and there's all these have-tos that get in the way. Now, whether those are real or kind of you are making those happen is something we touch on in the counselling world. And that idea that we give up then fuels that guilt process. So we kind of like move away from those ideas. But we come across next year and we have another New Year's resolution. Because we think sometimes that we have to do it. We think that, well, that's the way we have to work our world. And people will say to us, in New Year, well, what are you going to change? because it's become this common thing that people do. So there's an expectation that we will do something to change. People might put pressure on us to change because they care about us and they want us to lose weight because we might not be healthy in that sense. And so there's a whole range of things that are pressurized on us to perform, to be the way we should or should not be. And I think those things come to bear on this New Year's resolution sometimes, that we want to do our best, we over amplify that, we over expect, and then the realism of what is achievable hits us, and then we go back to what we used to do before. And for a lot of us, it's about habit. It's about remembering to do something, making that a focus, making that important. And if we can remember to do it, then it sometimes becomes a subconscious process, a reaction. And that then becomes a normal plan within our program of days events or weeks events or months events. And when we can stick to it, when we can make it happen, it feels good. It feels like we're achieving something. It feels like we're getting fitter, healthier. We're doing more. We're enjoying ourselves more. And that kind of adrenaline process starts hitting us. That makes it. So they kind of reckon that if we can keep something going for 3 months from New Year, so kind of January, February, March, by April, if it was a consistent process that we've kept going, they reckon that we will then more likely keep it going, because it's that 3-month motivation, energy that has kept going. I'm not saying that's the same for everybody. There may be other things come into your world in your life after April that you feel you would want to do, or you feel are more important than your own needs and requirements. But if you can keep going for that 3 months, then usually from what they tell us, the kind of psychologists and people of that nature, that it becomes a routine. It becomes a part of your world, your daily program, your weekly program, whatever it is. And that then becomes a subconscious process that you just keep on doing it. I think that's possibly true. Most of the times I've gone through this process, and I have, where there's been a New Year's resolution, it's usually folded before April, and then got forgotten till the next year, and it becomes the same New Year's resolution again. I'm a human being after all. And that process sometimes after April just becomes where it's too much bother, too much hassle, it's dark nights, it's raining, I've got in from work, why do I want to go out again? All those kind of things. So there becomes a lot of reasons why I shouldn't, instead of reasons why I should. And that aspect of getting despondent, maybe New Year's resolution shouldn't be New Year. Maybe New Year's resolutions should be May, June, when it's lighter nights and it's good weather. And we do, don't we? We start not a New Year's resolution, but a resolution to do something, to change something. But maybe that's an easier one if we're talking about anything that's to do with going out, being outside. Dark nights and wet weather and cold weather doesn't necessarily fill it usually. And so that process of moving into that new world, that different world, that change, whatever that change is, if we can see that progressive working towards the target, working towards the goal being achieved, then that gives us more encouragement to keep on doing it. And if we can make that happen for more than the 3 months, then it's possibly going to be a part of our world and our life that we can go forward with and move we hopefully will then get what we're trying to achieve. And other people, which are a big part of our motivation, other people can give us the confidence, the self-esteem of saying, well done, you're great, you're doing good, those kind of things. That encouragement, that support, you know. Now, if we don't have that support, if we don't have people, not every day, but periodically checking in with us and seeing how we're doing and raising that awareness, then it can be a really hard struggle sometimes on our own, motivating ourselves. A lot of motivation comes from other people. It comes from people checking in, making sure we're okay, and what we've achieved, these kind of milestones that we're trying to get to, the goals and the targets. So if people around us can encourage us, we're more likely to achieve it. We're less likely to achieve it if people actively try and get involved in stopping it happening, or getting in the way of it happening, or demanding things from us that are at the times when we would be doing whatever we're doing, the New Year's resolution. So sometimes people get in the way of that, and they don't necessarily do that on purpose. They can subconsciously want us to be like we used to be who we used to be, because they engaged with that person, they knew that person, this person's different. And that can be a big pressure sometimes on us to stop changing ourselves, stop getting our goals and meeting our targets, because of how it's affecting other people. People around us don't always appreciate change the way we do. They sometimes want the world to be exactly the same as it used to be. And so it's hard for them to explore, understand, work with that change, because it feels vulnerable for them. It feels awkward. We might not want to connect to them. We might want to be different. We don't see them the same way, and they don't see us the same way. So whatever time we're spending on this goal, this target, this achievement, is time that we might not be spending with them, and they want us to spend time with them. So there's a lot of things that people put in our way to sometimes make those achievements real. If people love you, care about you, and you're not doing anything that's harmful or risky, then pretty much they'll say, go for it, be there, be yourself, do what you want to do, become you, whatever that is. And I think for a lot of people that happens, which is great, that encouragement, that support. But I think for some people that change is scary. That change is insecure. Well, all change is insecure by the very nature of change. But they feel uncomfortable with the change, or they feel like you won't connect with me as much, or talk with me as much, or spend as much time with me because you're doing this. You've got new people. If we can, and certainly relationships, partners, if we can give those people an idea of what that new world looks like, maybe bring them to the gym, maybe go to the pub with them with your mates, so that they see these people, they see this place, that it isn't a threat to them, that it's okay. That can be helpful in engaging that change, because then they don't get scared about the change. A lot of people worry about them being left and being alone and not being connected, being detached. And that insecurity is understandable, obviously. But sometimes they don't help us to change because of that. So you need to maybe have a conversation about that change, how it's going to be different, how it's going to affect you and the other person. Is it going to affect you and the other person? Kind of open dialogue. So we change together in a sense of understanding. A lot of the people I see in the counselling room, they'll change the world and their life in some way, whatever that might be. And the person who's changing in the couple kind of moves on, grows, develops, becomes. Yeah. So it's kind of like moving forward, going up, getting better, becoming more them, whatever that is. But if we don't have a conversation with our partner, then our partner's back here where we used to be. And it doesn't necessarily understand the partnership process of change. So if we have a constant conversation of how we're changing, then that change will be synced, will be connected. I don't have to worry about this change because this change isn't going to make this relationship any worse than it is already, or any different than it is already. So that process of change can sync. Now, you'll never be connected together fully, but the more conversations you have, the more communication you have, the more understanding each of you has within those changes, and it's changed both ways, then the more safe, secure you'll feel because you're aware, you know. And a lot of the people that I see in the counselling room, one partner's changed because they wanted to, or life's changed for them, and the other partner's unaware of that change happening, and then they feel insecure, they feel threatened, they don't know this person. Say, for example, you were given the opportunity to have a new job at work, but the new, instead of being at home every night, you were going to be away 2 or 3 nights a week. Now, if you had a conversation with your partner about that new job, and you say, well, okay, I'm probably going to be away 2 or 3 nights of the week, how's that going to affect us, world, looking after the kids, whatever, then there's a shared process of understanding. There's a shared process of decision. Yeah, go for it. It'll be okay. Don't worry about it. You might need to tweak it afterwards, but each person is aware of what the change is going to occur and how it's going to be. Then that's going to work well. If you don't give the partner that understanding and all of a sudden just accept this new job and you're away for 2 or 3 nights a week, then there's going to be much more insecurity in the relationship, much more pressure, much more of, well, you've done this to me, I didn't have a choice process. So that's going to be hard. So any change you're going to make, whatever the change is, then talk about it with the people around you. Talk about it with the people close to you. Make them aware of why you're changing, what the change is going to do, how it's going to work, what kind of external pressures it's going to have on you and the relationship, how that's going to inform you in the future. Are you still going to be with me? Are you still going to want me? Those kind of questions will be in that person's head. And if you don't have that conversation, then they're more likely to build their own understanding, knowledge and awareness of that. And that will create the insecurity. That will create the process of, feelings, emotions of not being connected. And being disconnected is not usually a good thing for you, for us as humans. We like to be connected. So, I know that's rambling on a bit about New Year resolutions. Well, probably is, probably not. I don't know. Maybe. But, see the things that go through my head. But, if you can stick to them, if you can have dialogue with the people close to you, if you can get them to support you and encourage you, and you're realistic with what your targets and your goals are going to be, one of the most important things, then the more likely to keep on going, the more likely you're going to achieve it and get to where you want to be. And that's going to be beneficial and a win-win for you, obviously, and people that connect to you. Because if you take the health kind of goals, targets, then the people who care about you and who live with you and who have a relationship with you are going to get a more healthy you. And they won't have to worry about you possibly dying or having some kind of illness or some impediment, as a process. So, hopefully that's made sense. And hopefully it's been interesting. And I've opened your head to some new ideas of stuff and how to maybe make those change more permanent. My name's Ian Wallace. I'm the Messed Up Counsellor. Take care. Hi, thanks for listening to the podcast, and hopefully it made sense and was interesting for you. Please subscribe, like and share. With the podcasts, you never know who will be helped by the things we talk about, things we share. We don't normally tell people our problems, but by sharing it and helping other people to understand things. The book Insecurity, It's All About Me, is also available now through Amazon. And it gives you an understanding of what drives insecurity, how insecurity works within our human dynamics, and how you can get a much more closely, much more secure connection with people. It gives you lots of ideas and thoughts, which is really good. So thanks for listening. Subscribe, like, share, hit the button. And if you've got any comments, please give me them and I'll do my best to answer them. Thanks very much. Take care.